Good day, everybody. Welcome to the GiriCast, live on Sports Direct Radio and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. I think that's right. I'm Nick Bell, your host for this evening, and we are back once again to talk about Malaga Club de Football in action on Saturday away to Algeciras. A man who gallantly led the line on Saturday, as he's done many Saturdays before him, was the one and only Luke Chambers, and he joins me now to review this game. Luke, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Nick, thank you. Are you all right?
Yeah, not doing too bad. Technical glitches aside, so if you are a regular viewer on YouTube, you will understand I have the studio, and I use air quotes there, where I've got an old telly behind me and computers and ring lights and all that jazz.
I like it, you know. It's very suave, very professional.
Well, you find me this time, and I know it's an on-running joke in this podcast that I have many different rooms, but now you find me in the library. Relocation for tonight, set for a computer. But we were desperate to get this podcast out, so we no excuses, and we're on to it. Like you on Saturday, Luke, you persevered and you just went for it. Debut hosting gig. Sounds like you had a great time.
I loved it, mate. To be honest, all things GiriCast, all things Malaga. I'll always enjoy it, but yeah, it's great. And I know we mentioned it quite a few times the other day, just in terms of the numbers, what we actually had. We nearly hit 100 viewers at once, which I believe is like record numbers for us. So just thank you very much for everybody out there, and thank you for getting involved.
No, it really is. And I watched it back. As you know, Luke, I was stuck in traffic. I was supposed to be with you. I did promise you that I'd join you, but that traffic was pretty bad. And I won't lie to you, it was so bad. I dived into a restaurant and had my tea. So
there's nothing wrong in that. You've got to be happy.
Yes, exactly. But great numbers all the same. Just shame about the football, which we'll come on to very shortly. As you know, just so you're getting into the routine of this, we now do 2 shows a week, 1 preview show, 1 review show. We sprinkle a little bit of news into both. So this week, we've just got a couple of articles just to bring to your attention. First and foremost, Luke, Danny Lorenzo, who wasn't involved at any point on Saturday, if I remember rightly, broken finger. He's had some surgery done on it today. It was made to sound out that this wasn't a massive injury, but if you're going under the knife or something, it sounds a bit more serious than we first thought, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Just to correct that bit, Nick, he did play on Saturday.
There we go. That's why you were watching it, so he did come on.
He didn't really do much. He came on at half-time, but yeah, like you would say, anything what requires surgery clearly isn't a nice injury. I don't expect to see Danny Lorenzo at the weekend, unfortunately.
Do you think he's maybe aggravated it by coming on Saturday then? Like I say, forgive me for that one. I thought he'd given it a whole miss whilst he was recovering with it. But if he's then come on the pitch and either aggravated it or maybe injured it even more, was it a bit reckless to do that to him?
I personally, I didn't expect to see him. I didn't expect to see him all at the weekend. If you're playing with the squad, what we've got, I was saying on Saturday, I believe we've currently got nearly our strongest squad available. So why do we have to force a player who's got that injury? But to us, Nick, we don't know how serious of a break it is. It could have been a little fracture or something. So he could have played. It could have been a bad one. Therefore, now he's required surgery. So, yeah, it's a strange move, but hopefully he's not out for too long.
No, well, he's definitely been a catalyst to Malaga's upturning fortune since the turn of the new year, basically. And without Danny Lorenzo, I think we can both admit we flattered to deceive. So all the best to Danny Lorenzo on that front. On a merchandising front, as you well know, Luke, last week we spoke about the 120 anniversary and all the things that the club are doing, the shirts, there's games, there's celebration, there's a new hymno. But the first thing that's come out of the traps is a brand new anniversary scarf. And as a scarf aficionado, as you are you excited to get your hands on this?
I am very excited. One person who isn't excited is my wallet. But yes, I'm not sure. I think it'll be out for the Ceuta game. I'm sure. So hopefully they'll be available and I will be buying because like you've just said, Nick, I am a scarf connoisseur.
Yeah, well, I know you've got your new latest pen you want. You've got a few draped over your scenery behind you. I might have to get a few put up here on the bookshelf for
You've
future
got,
episodes
mate.
if my technology is still failing me. But yeah, no, it looks really nice. So it's kind of got the I want to say the motto or the slogan that's centered around the 120th anniversary celebrations. And maybe a bit of a unique bit of history there for people who do want to get their hands on one. I believe they are in sale in the club shop now, so they'll definitely be available for the Linares game this weekend, but definitely for the Ceuta game in a couple of weeks' time as well. So if you can get your hands on one, you'll be a lucky sod. Into other light news, and as always on this podcast, we love to go back to former players, and no one more than anyone else. It's Lauren Zuniga, the man who, speaking of Linares, plucked the ball out of the air as if he was a gift from God. He has been all over social media this weekend for his assist for Real Madrid Castilla. He's now on 3 goals in 10 games. You've written here for me, Luke. The man's in the form of his life, isn't he?
He's in the form of his life because the peak of his life form isn't that great. But have you seen the assist, Nick, at all?
I've seen a clip of it. Yeah. I caught it on my lunch break at some point, but it's a bit different.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, Lauren Zuniga receives the ball on the halfway line, turns his man, drives at the defence. Granted, the defending wasn't too intense, but then he's got to the 18-yard box and done like a scoop pass. And then, to be fair to the other Real Madrid C player, he just volleys it in the top corner. Absolute thunder bastard. I dare say the volley was the highlight of a goal, but I read into it, and apparently Lauren Zuniga is in the form of his life, like you're saying, Nick. Granted, it is in a lower tier of football, and granted, on the highlights, there must have been about 7 people watching. So, I mean, it's gone from La Rosaleda to that, but do you think we miss Lauren Zuniga? Are we missing a player off the bench to go up front?
Well, I suppose you're asking me 2 questions there, Luke, and you've put this in the agenda as a loaded question. I know you have. So, in answer to your latter part, are we missing a striker to come off the bench? Absolutely, we are. I think obviously it's great to have Roberto back in the starting lineup. I imagine will be back this weekend as well, but still, it doesn't scream depth to me. Should that striker be Lauren Zuniga? No, glad to see the back of him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I think we've carried him for too long. We expected a player last season that was going to deliver. We've given him the much coveted number 9, and he's flattered to deceive. He's been, for a want of a better word, absolutely shit. So it doesn't surprise me that he's playing well for Real Madrid C, because he wanted to be there. This was the move he wanted last season, and it didn't quite come off for him. He's there now. He's going to put the graft in. And as I said before, he's playing against, even lower opposition than we're at now. So,
and it's like you've just said then, Nick, to drop the divisions, and is 3 in 10 that good for centre forward? Not really, is it?
Yeah, not when you were being coveted by so many clubs, and if you had the application, the drive, the determination, there's no doubt that there is a player in there. From my perspective, we saw that at Malagueño. It's his aptitude and his attitude as well that I would question. And if he makes a success of it at Real Madrid, fair play to him. But I don't see him. I don't see him troubling good old Jude for a starting berth at this moment in time. Let's put it that way.
Do we not see Alex Ashmore with a Lauren Zuniga Real Madrid shirt anytime soon? Then,
imagine if he bought one of them. But I suppose
I think we should just get him one.
Oh, I don't know if we've got enough coin to buy a shirt that size. To be fair, maybe we'd have to stitch 2 together because he's 6'9". But I suppose I'd put the same question back to you, Luke. You watched the game on Saturday. The chances that we had, are we missing another striker, a different option off the bench, especially when we have people out injured?
I think you've just summed it up very well, Nick. We 100% miss a striker off the bench. It's definitely not Lauren Zuniga. We had that for a long time. It's straight. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's strange, but how we haven't got another youth striker out of all these great kids, what we've got coming through, another youth striker who we could give 10 minutes to just to inflect a bit of something. I don't think anything to Aviles. I don't know if he's a winger or a centre forward. I'm really struggling to see. But whilst Dione's out, or vice versa, if it was Roberto, we are very much a one-man centre forward team. And if things aren't going right, there's only one thing. The best thing to do is to freshen your front line up to go and get that goal. I just really don't see it coming off our bench.
Well, the one thing that we didn't put into this little bit of news, but I'll drop it in now. Did you see that a certain former Malaga striker has just joined a team in Marbella? Not the Marbella, just a team in Marbella.
Oh, I'm not sure. I saw some headline, but I didn't click on it. Enlighten us, Nick.
It is the one and only Diego Roland, who was certainly dropped down a division. It's come out of nowhere as well, this, but I believe he is plying his trade once again on the Costa del Sol. Maybe we could just pick up the phone and say, "Oi, Diego, do you fancy it? Like we just need a body more than anything, because we've got this Juan Hernandez lad and he's just not cutting it."
Yeah,
so
we've got so many players who, I think me and Alex said it on the lives at the weekend. We've got that many players who just, you do not realise they're playing. They don't do much. You've got your standard Guerrero, Roberto, Joaquim, say Victor, or kind of thing. But besides that, you've got so many who just don't do anything. Manu, of course.
Yeah, except Manu, obviously. But
however, I'm sure we'll talk about Manu. But Mr. Manu didn't do Manu things at the weekend.
We're all allowed a bit of an off day.
He wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one.
But yeah, but I think another body would be in there, and not within the realms of impossibility. I remember a couple of seasons ago, he signed Adrian Lopez outside of the window. So, should Loren and Sergio be maybe looking for something just to give us that oomph?
It would make sense. It would make sense. And if there is an all-time Spanish goal scorer just lurking around the Costa del Sol, would you take a hit? Would you take a shot on that 42-year-old for 7-8 games? Forget everything what's happened for the last 7 months, and let's think he can put the ball in the net. Dare we do that?
If he played for 90 quid a week, pay as you play, then maybe.
Interestingly, Nick, I didn't add this, but just on our training report, Dione is partially back training as well as Ramon. So to me, that says light work, running, bit of ball work, etc. So maybe Dione too. Well, I think they'll miss Linares. Maybe Ceuta, Ramon. I'm still thinking 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks. Other side of that, we've got Kevin and Genaro, who both trained indoors today. I don't know what that means, really, if that's just light gym work or if it's just sat eating bocadillas or something. So interestingly as well, Mr. Genaro picked up an injury at the weekend, hence why he's training indoor. What injury did he pick up at the weekend, Nick?
Oh, God.
And you've played football yourself, etc. Once I tell you the injury, you judge if this is enough to miss training as the captain.
I want to say if you're missing training or if you're training in the gym or something like that, it's got to be like a hamstring pull or something like that, maybe. Something like.
I don't think he could have been doing bike work, because on a bike, you've got to sit down. And by sitting down, you've got to use your buttocks. So Genaro today missed training due to a bruised buttock, according to our good friend, Mr. David Picon. Does that get more Spanishy than anything?
Well, to be fair, they are very specific with their injury details, aren't they? Like you say, it's not he's broken his metatarsal. It's broken. He's ruptured the bone of his metatarsal on the left foot, 4 inches in on the mini one, and it's like very, very detailed.
And it was Mr. Genaro's birthday at the weekend, so hey, I'm not asking questions how he bruised that buttock.
He's probably fallen down the stairs or something like that, maybe. Whilst pissed, maybe. But we won't speculate, like you say. But yeah, like you say, this weekend it wasn't the greatest result, 0-0. And we'll come to talking about Algeciras in a little moment. But just looking at a couple of results either side of that, Castellon obviously getting the victory away at Castilla, Cordoba beating San Fernando at home. So those two stealing that march again, putting some distance between ourselves and those Ibiza drawing as well, if I remember rightly.
No, Ibiza got beaten, Nick.
Ibiza got beat, beg your pardon.
2-1.
Who was that again? Sorry.
Ceuta, who are very much on form, by the way.
Oh, it's not what we want to hear when we've got a Giri Cast meet-up against Ceuta.
Yeah, we know what happens then. We know the script.
Written in the card. So, again, putting some, real gap between ourselves and them now, aren't they? I think it's up to, just looking now, and again, another 7 points between us and Castellon at top. Is it enough to turn it around?
I still think there's potential for it to be turned around. At the moment, it seems like the teams very much are wanting to beat each other. They're all dropping points from time to time. Without going into the fixtures, obviously, you can all hear on the preview show, but I believe Castellon's got quite a tough game at the weekend. But this were a big win for Castellon. Me and Alex were saying, like, Real Madrid Castilla, you never know what kind of team you're going to come up against. They are the second akin to the Real Madrid All-Star, so they can be absolutely fantastic on their day. Ibiza has the bubble burst. I don't know, the slate in front of us. Our friend Alberto Escassi losing his head on the 95th minute.
I was going to ask this. I was going to ask
that before.
Yeah,
but the league's definitely hotting up again. If we could have got them extra 2 points at the weekend, Jesus, we are close. We are close. We just need to keep that consistency.
Yeah, I think that's it. And we can't, it's obviously not great to be further 2 points behind, but if we'd have won, we'd still be 5 points off Castellon anyway. So it wouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And like you said, there's some big games coming up which could really see Castellon fall foul of Cordoba, who just cannot stop winning at the minute.
No.
And again, Castellon, and Cordoba have got a game against Malaga at the end of April. So, there'll be the aim for me will be to be within a couple of points of Cordoba by that game. That's should be the interim aim for Malaga.
I think I put on my Twitter when I half announced that I'm going to the Cordoba game. I just want to be in with a shout still at that point. I don't want us to fall into a bracket where we can't chase the league. We're fully cemented into the playoffs, and we end up with 6 or 7 games, which are they're not pointless, but I don't know. It's hard to rally the troops for it because you know where you are, you're in the playoffs, etc.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think to be fair, by the time that we get round to that game, if results have gone our way in the teams below us, especially the Ceutas, Algeciras, Intercities, we could have confirmed a playoff place by mid-April potentially with the run of games we've got. So it'll be interesting, like you say, Luke, to see how we can keep touch with these two at the top. But a big part of that is playing football and winning football games. This weekend we didn't win a football game. We went down the coast just past Estepona. Gibraltar's on your left, Algeciras on your right. There we are. Saturday evening game for the first time in a while as well. How do we rock up? We absolutely ring the changes. So we had a starting 11 in this match with Herrero in goal. Joaquin and Dani Sanchez came back into the back four alongside Monte and Aina. A midfield 5 of Genaro, Molina, Larrubia, Ferrero back in as well. A rogue Juanpe out of nowhere. And then Roberto back in leading the line. So of this starting 11, Luke, were you pleasantly surprised? Were you frustrated? Were you curious? Tell me your feelings.
Yeah, we're quite curious. The only one what did catch my attention maybe was Juanpe. I half expected Dani Sanchez to come in for it sounds wrong. He's probably been absolutely fantastic in training, but for the heroics of the Dione incident, I just had it in my head that Dani Sanchez was going to play. Joaquin, Ferreira and Roberto, for me, we're always going to come back into that team. But yeah, the Juanpe one, I don't know, he seems to come and go, doesn't he? I don't know. He may play 2 games, then miss 8, and then he appears again, and then he goes, and really, really surprised me. But as mentioned earlier, whether this was something to do with the Daniel Lorenzo injury, I fully believe it was, and maybe Juanpe's looked slightly better than Sangale in training.
Is he? The one that gets me on this is, like you say, is there's Sangala you can pick from there. There's Swampy. Even if you look towards the the bench, you've got Isa Marino, Hernandez, even Antonito. You know what I mean? Like, is Juanpe the kind of player that's going to bring you the same energy, the same style that Dani Lorenzo offers, or could we have played Larubia more centrally and put Aviles out on the right or Hernandez out on the right? It didn't sit well with me having Juanpe, Molina, and Gennaro in the same midfield together. It just looked off kilter.
Yeah, and this is something we definitely picked up on Saturday on the streams. It was very much three similar kind of players. Manu brings a hell of a lot more in terms of his creativity, but to put Juanpe in there, I'd say, is very much the in-between of Emmanuel Molina and Gennaro. He'll just work, I guess. But what was clear to see on Saturday is we effectively played a 4-3 and then another 3 a long, long, long way away.
Yeah.
That 3 in midfield, we had nothing in between Roberto and the centre midfielders, whereas that is where a central David Ralubia or a Dani Lorenzo is. So I don't think it worked, probably hence why he got dragged at half time as well.
Yeah, one of the other thoughts I had in my brain when I was sort of like looking, whether Dani Lorenzo would play or not, is putting Ferrero for the middle. I generally think there is an ability in him, especially getting a foot on the ball, to play more similarly to what Lorenzo does, and he wouldn't hamper then the flow and ebb of Gennaro and Molina for me. So I agree with you 100% that Juanpe just looked out of place in there. And again, I think it fed into the fact that we started this game so slowly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there just didn't appear to be any urgency in anything that Malaga did. Some really poor defending. There was a fucking beautiful through ball from an Algeciras player. I can't quite remember who it was, but he kind of like just threaded it through about 4 Malaga players, didn't he? And it was only for the heroics of that man, Don Alfonso Herrero, that, stopped giving Algeciras a very early lead.
And how many times have we had to say that this season?
Realistically,
how many times has that man saved us?
Yeah, definitely. And I believe there was some form of stat that came out this weekend, or some accolade for Herrero.
Yeah, he's what is it now? Has he broken the record now? Then
I think
so.
So.
What it is, I think it's minutes since he last conceded a goal. And interestingly, I've got it written down somewhere, but I'm sure that is 6 games Malaga haven't conceded a goal. They've conceded like 1 goal in 9 games or something like that, which we sit here like miserable gets nearly every week. And then you look at the stats, you look at the league table, and you think, we've looked worse, haven't we?
Yeah.
However, on Saturday, like you've just said, Nick, this through ball caught us a bit on surprise, me and Alex. We weren't sure we're offside or anything. Everything just looked too easy. But then when you look at the replay, it were easily onside. And it was as if like this one through ball just really tore Nelson Monte and Eynard apart. And you're thinking, that's our solid centre halves who have, like Herrero, not conceded in 6. But yeah, strange performance from our defence this half, this game, which might sound strange because we came away with a clean sheet, but without the heroics of Herrero 2 or 3 times, this could have been a hell of a different story.
No, it really could. And Malaga did start to grow into the game. It took them about half an hour to really start, want for a better word, stringing passes together was the big element of it. And they had a few corners, which they had a couple of chances from. There was a shot from Roberto as well, which, interesting. That was an element I've not seen from Roberto before, to be fair, taking a bit of a shot from a relative distance. Yeah. So it did look like towards the end of the first half, we were starting to get on top of Algeciras a little bit. Do you think Pellicer would have been happy with the first half performance, or did he really need to put a rocket up their arse for the second half?
I think he would have been happy with the second half of the first half. Like you've just said there, Nick, Malaga definitely came into the game more. I dare say there were 5 or 6 long-range shots. Roberto was probably the most what was troubling the goalkeeper, but this is where David Ferreira were really starting to get onto the ball. which between Manu Molina and Ferrero, Malaga tick when these guys are on the ball. We wasn't creating too much. It was more the fact of players making their own efforts out of good work and stuff. I think Pelé said at halftime, I don't know, because for me, I would have wanted to give him a bit of a rocket up their ass and think, why do we start slow all the time? Why can't we go into these games? You know yourself, Nick. Each ground on an away game is basically a 50-50 with the fans. So you've effectively got the crowd. How can you not be up for that? How can you not come out like a headless chicken with the Malaguistas?
Yeah, and this one looked packed as well, didn't it? To be fair, like you say, the stadium was rocking. Don't get me wrong; it's not the biggest stadium in the world, and I gave the stadium a bit of a knocking last week on the pod, but actually looking at it from the camera angle, it's actually not that
quite
bad.
Nice, yeah. Apparently, it's a 7,000 seater standing whatever stadium. It can get 7,000 in. It's like if you can remember Granada Bay, 5,000 Malaga fans there, and we start off shite for half an hour, and you think, I mean, I never had crowds like this at all when I played, but if I had a lot of people there watching, or a lot of people watching your team, you just wanted to get out there and, well, please them from the start. Malaga very, very rarely set off on fire, don't they? We are very slow to get going, and sometimes it's going to bite us in the arse.
Yeah, like it nearly did, to be fair. I think exactly. That is the way that Pace sets up sometimes. He kind of just wants to feel people out first. But
do you think he would have been happy, Nick, at halftime?
Do you know what? I think he would have been. I think he would have seen the chances that Algeciras had. The fact that we were going in 0-0, and the fact that we didn't, really test their goalkeeper too much. I think he would have come in saying, "Well, actually, that's probably not that bad. Let's go out and do it again, but let's really put a bit of a hold on the game." And that's, to be fair, what Malaga have done really, really well for the game since probably the end of January. They've come out, they've survived the first half, either going 1 goal ahead or coming in 0-0, and then they've started to then just dominate and start to really press on teams. It didn't happen in this second half for me. We look at players like Ferrero and Molina. Something just wasn't right in this second half, and it became a bit more of a free-for-all, didn't it?
It very much seemed like the last game of the season, game where no teams got out to play for. It was as if both defences were just scattered all over the place. Ours more than theirs. Algeciras did. If anything, I dare say for majority of that second half, there were only one team who were looking like scoring, and it wasn't us, it was Algeciras.
Yeah, well, I know that, like you say, we had the penalty shout. I think after about 65 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah. Roberto's found himself in the box. He's gone up 1-on-1 against his man. Got the beating of him, but he's going nowhere. He's 3 yards from the the touch line. Defender goes in. For me, Roberto's already going down, even before the leg's gone in. Do you agree with me, Luke? Would it have been a soft penalty?
Yeah, no penalty at all. I know we spoke to Matt on the live stream after the game, and Matt said a lot of the fans were very agitated, obviously. But then I'm sure he said somewhere nearby were watching the game on RF TV as well at the same time, and he showed quite a few, and they're all like, definitely not a penalty. So if the Spaniards are saying no penalty, then
it's definitely
no penalty.
Well, I tell you what, if there is if we have an awards ceremony at the end of the season, and we can bring out the Oscar, or we'll call it the Marquezes, for acting wise and for really, giving it to the cause and committing to the bit. You would think that Roberto had his leg kicked off the way he reacted to that penalty not being given. So fair play to him for really going to it. But for me, not a month of Sunday.
No, I think I raised the point a couple of weeks ago, Nick. I wonder if Roberto's maybe getting a bit of a name for himself in this league with the referee, with the officials. Because looking back, I'm sure Roberto has at least 2 of these per game, and I dare say we've won 1 all season. To me, this one wasn't even questionable.
No, like you say, he was already going down. It was like he was at a 45-degree angle as the leg was coming in. He was definitely trying to sell it.
The Aviles one the week before, you can make a talking point out of that. where you could have debate. I think, did you and Matt say you didn't think it was a penalty? At
No,
the
we
time,
didn't think it
I
was.
thought it was. So, like, you can debate about that. Whereas this one is just purely like, nah, I'm not having this.
The thing is for me, and don't get me wrong, the angle is tight, but from where he stood, it only takes a drop of the shoulder and a cut back onto his right foot and just fucking wrap it.
Yep.
And you're into the realms of anything could happen then. As long as you get your shot away and you can and it's got a chance, that could have easily ricocheted into the back of the ring. So it's the fact that he decided to go down rather than take his man on and get the shot that maybe. I'm not mad, Roberto. I'm just a little bit disappointed because again, that is it's a good opportunity from a good.
I think unfortunately it's a big part of the modern game. You see it more and more now when you're thinking you've beat your man, you beat him, you're away, but then for some reason go down, the ref don't give it, and then you look a complete tit. But yeah, for me there were better options than good. I mean, end of the day, he might have been caught. We don't know. On the cameras, definitely not. But I suppose sometimes all it takes is a tiny knock.
Well, again, and don't get me wrong, I know the game is fast paced, but even just thinking about it to myself now, if he'd have gone back onto his right, and then
he would have got a penalty.
He would have got a penalty. So it's kind of that decision making, maybe that maybe not playing the last few games, you kind of lose your edge a little bit. But
we can forgive him.
I can't criticize Roberto for this game either, because the big thing was he was running around everywhere once again. But that gap between him and the midfield was far too big for basically for the whole 90 minutes, to be fair. But it was, as you say, Luke, Algeciras were looking more likely for this second half. They looked like they were going to score for a good 20 minutes of it. Herrero coming to our rescue once again. Fucking hell, the offside trap here went to shit, didn't it? Because it was just so simply played back, and then just a little dinked through ball from Algeciras to essentially just give him a one-on-one from nowhere. And Herrero reading it well, made himself massive, and again another quality save.
This is what I mean regarding the last game of the season. Where you often see like a 5-4 or a 3-3s, where teams just don't really care. Our defense, we're very much like that. I mean, me and Alex were, yourself, as the game goes on, you want 3 points, but there is a trigger where it gets, and you think, hold on, we'll take a point. The point's more important than not. Our defensive, but fuck it, we're having this. And they had quite a few chances, which luckily these wasn't great going forward. If we were playing a Castellon or something like that, then it would have been over a long time ago. But on Herrero to the rescue again. Luckily, we have a great goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. If we had a Jesus Miguel or or any kind of semblance of a decent finisher, we would have been punished a lot in this game, to be fair, because there was just something not quite right about the whole back line for me. And, we've spoken and waxed lyrical about Einar and Monte, especially as of late, but just something was off in this match. I don't know if maybe one of them's carrying an injury, if there's a bit of fatigue, potentially, tiredness, but they just seemed a bit of a step behind their usual pace. But what I think this does link into is you get a performance out of Monte and Einar if you get a performance out of Molina and Gennaro. And because those two were off pace, it meant the centre-backs were off pace. We weren't playing as high a line either. We kept having to come quite deep in our own half to defend. Yeah. So I think we've not managed to really execute the game plan that well, have we?
Yeah, I can agree with that totally. Very, very compact in there. Like you've just said, Gennaro sits, so take him out kind of thing. Manu were very quiet in terms of he didn't get hold of the ball. Probably didn't have chance. I don't know if Juanpe and Gennaro were two on top of each other. I know I've played in the 3 before, and you need the space to start creating. If you haven't got the space, then you're just on top of each other and you've got no options.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, especially when Molina's looking for something like that. I think Ferrero being out on the left as well I'm not seeing a bad game out there, but I think naturally the way that Molina wants to play is he steps out onto his right and then he picks a pass going rightwards all the time. He's not someone who really goes left that much, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah, correct. And it was strange to see again. I think Sergio Pellicer left it till the last 15 minutes to start switching Ferrero around. He went from the left to the right, and then I'm sure he finished the last 10 as a number 10. Actually, did he come off late on? I'm not sure if he came off late on, but he started switching along the line. But you're thinking, well, why can't we try that in the first half? If we're not getting hold of the ball and creating, why can't we think and just muddle it around a bit? Why does Malaga have to wait till rush hour to start doing something?
Yeah, it was strange, and like you say, we're talking about the three that kind of stayed on. So we brought on Daniel Lorenzo for Juan Pe. We brought off Larrubia for Aviles. Sangale came on for Canaro, and Cordero
Anthony, yeah. Which we haven't seen Antonito in quite a while.
No, but for me, centre's really like narrow as well.
Very narrow.
15 minutes. We didn't have much of an outlet going wide. So again, I think that kind of led into why Algeciras, especially in the latter 10 minutes, looked like they were going to nick it really. So
to be fair, Nick, it was very clear to see from early on as well. I think I raised the point to Alex maybe 7 minutes in. I don't know, it might have came from our corner. The keeper collects it, and then straight away he's rushing out and kicking the ball very long. As Malaga very much play rock and roll defensive football. We either don't move or we leave it 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3. So Algeciras acted on this all game, and obviously when it comes to the 70th minute, bit of fatigue in legs, tired legs, they were bringing centre forwards on like there were no tomorrow, and it was very much showing. So sometimes Malaga just need to be a bit more cock savvy in the heads.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't understand why at that point you wouldn't have brought on someone like a Musa, maybe, just to shore it up. If we'd seen it from the get-go, that point when I know, and don't get me wrong, Luke, I've played some Sunday League football, and I can't read a game that well, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but I saw it a million miles away that striker was going to just dink it around him, and he committed, and then all of a sudden, there's a fucking gap the same size as Cheddar Gorge. Trying to get through on goal for Herrero. It just seemed to me that both of them just were really off pace. But Levi, it ended up 0-0 at the Estadio Nuevo Mirador. Both teams extending unbeaten runs. Malaga now unbeaten in 6 games. As you said before, Luke, conceded just 2 goals in their last 9, which is just absolutely insane. Maybe just to round this off and put a lovely little bow in it, we discussed before, is this a points gained or a points lost scenario?
It's a hard one, isn't it? It's always a hard one, this, because as a fan, you want to win every game. You believe you should win every game. I don't think we deserve to win the game. So what would we have done in previous years? Would we have drawn this game, or would we have ended up coming away with nothing? We come away with a point. So you've got to respect. I'm going to quote Sam Allardyce here. You have to respect the point. I wish Castellon or Cordoba could have dropped 1 or 2, but hey, there's still 8 or 9 weeks left of this season. Everybody's going to drop and drop. If we're not losing games, then we're improving ourselves. But yeah, very much 3 given away, I think. How do you think?
I would go that it's a point gained, to be fair. I maybe didn't give Algeciras the respect that they deserved last week. Yeah. I thought this would be look at Malaga, we're rocking up your little tiny Algeciras. But I actually thought
they're 7 games unbeaten now.
Yeah, and that's it. I thought that, they're not a bad setup, really, on the face of it. Like you said before, if they had maybe a more clinical striker, they could be in the playoffs with us very, very easily. Yeah. Yep. So, Sam Allardyce has getting a lot of love on this podcast recently, which, just to give you a little link, if you want to go and listen to Platini Play for Kuwait, it's not even my podcast.
Not do it anymore.
Matt Harrison's done with his brother a lovely little episode on Sam Allardyce's Bolton. So head over there and go and listen to Platini Played for Kuwait. But absolutely for me, if you're winning at home and picking up a point away, you're going to be thereabouts at the end of the season.
Yeah, of course you are.
We can only be happy with being there and thereabouts after 2 seasons of absolute shite. So we'll move on to our last bit as we look to close the review show. So we'll move on to our Chumbos first, Luke. So I've got mine, but I want to hear yours first.
My Chumbo is going for the forgotten man. It's going for Juanpe, who he got dragged at half time. Whether that was fatigue or anything, like I say, he's not been seen a long time. But I don't know. I'm not blaming it on this player, but it just really fucked our play up, if you know what I mean. Like we've just said about Genaro, Manu. Again, like we've said before, this could have been one of a few players, but with him getting hacked at half time, etc., it's got to be Juanpe for me.
Yes, I'm 100% agree with you on that. Juanpe was my choice. I think he's got very much got a case of that I'm not very good at being a footballer itis. Not to put it too harshly, but he's just, he's come with a pedigree, I believe. He played in the Segunda last year for Lugo. He can't be a bad footballer, but for me, he's just stank out the place this season, unfortunately.
Yep.
I'm kind of expecting more from him. And again, being hooked after 61 minutes to be replaced by a lad with a broken hand doesn't say much about you as a footballer, if I'm being perfectly honest.
It really doesn't.
Juanpe for me as well. So I'll move on to Biznaga, and I'm going to assume I'm just going to put my hat on it.
Is it worth asking this question?
I just don't think there's any point of us even asking the question anymore.
Well, if like I mentioned earlier, we had 95 great viewers on the live streams the other day. I guarantee if you asked every one of those 95 this question, I dare say they are 100% going to go with Don Alfonso Herrero for keeping us in that game again.
Yes, exactly. Save after save. The man is literally a record breaker now. The man who's out there in a short sleeve pink t-shirt with a Miami Vice mustache, looking resplendent. He also gets my Biznaga as well for basically the point belongs to him.
It does.
You know, without him,
it is that blunt. It is that blunt. And I think I asked Alex the other day, roughly how many points do you think he has actually saved us this season? I think about 6, realistically, with the saves he makes.
Absolutely. I think looking at some of the games that we've drawn, especially where he's kept us in it, I'd maybe even argue closer to 10.
Yeah, and we did not see this coming because you know how upset we all was when the end of the season, what Ruben Yanez had last season. I was devastated when he left. It was always going to happen, but to then find a goalkeeper like this, it's been a saviour for us, and he seems so committed to the cause.
Well, let's put it this way: if we can assume that he has saved us maybe 10 points through either preventing draws or preventing losses. Without those 10 points, we'd be in 6th position, 7th position right now, outside of the playoffs, chasing, Recre, Tifa Huelva and Ceuta and teams like that. So, without him, he's probably been as important for stopping goals than Roberto has been a scorer in the season, in my opinion. So,
yeah, 100%. 100%. And when you look at it, Nick, when you look at it, I mean, obviously we're heading towards the playoffs. Like we've mentioned in this past 45 minutes, we are relatively solid at the back. We have a great goalkeeper. If we can sort the other end, it's knockout football at the end of the day. If we can draw 0-0 away at, I don't know, Barcelona B or Cultural Leonense or whoever it is, and then bring them back to our Palace and nick a 1-0 win or something, you do that twice, you're in Segunda again. No,
definitely. And for me, if you're listening, Sergio, might be worth just a little flick through that black book and seeing if there's anybody sat on a sun lounge a minute who fancies getting up to speed and potentially pitching in with a few goals. But we will see whether that happens or not. So that has been the preview show. No, it's not been. It's been the review show. I don't know what's going on.
Nailed
it. we need different names for these two programs. If you want to then find out more about this weekend's game against Linares Deportivo, we will be having a preview show being released on Friday. If you've listened to this one, I don't believe we're going to get a Vamos from Matt, or are we going to get a Vamos from Matt? Matt's in Gibraltar at the minute, and he's on Wales High, so we might not get a Vamos. But for him as well, Vamos Galas for tonight's game, the playoff. We do hope that Wales can make it to Euro 2024. So the last thing to be said, Luke, is thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for hosting, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure again. I love doing this. I hope you all have a great weekend, and let's look forward to Tres Puntos on Sunday. Vamos Malaga.
Yes, Vamos Malaga. And thank you once again to everybody for listening at home. Your support, as always, is absolutely fantastic, immeasurable, and we love to do this for you guys. So, as Luke said, a huge Tres Puntos at the weekend would be massive for Malaga as we take on Linares Deportivo. You've been listening to the GigaCast on Sports Direct Radio and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. I've been Nick Bell. Adios and Vamos Malaga.